Mrs. Wilson, Kathy's gone.
Gone? Whatever are you talking about?
What happened to your net? It looks like there's a...
Nothing. I caught it on a barbed wire fence.
Barbed wire? There isn't any barbed wire.
I caught it on barbed wire, I said!
We're all deeply sorry to hear about your little Kathy. There's nothing one can say, but...
Thank you, Brenda.
Gotta see the chief right away.
What's the trouble, Mac?
What has he been telling you? He's been reading those trashy science fiction magazines.
Used to use our telescope here before things got so
But
hush-hush.
David tells me he's seen a spaceship. Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Dr. Blake, David.
What kind of doctor? I'm not sick.
I know you're not, but Sergeant Finley said you had a story to tell. A confidential story.
What in the name of time is that?
David? Come here. I want to warn you. Don't go spreading stories about things you imagine out in those fields. Understand?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Invaders from Mars, the 1953 William Cameron Menzies sci-fi classic, is coming out on September 26th from Ignite Films in a brand new 4K restoration. It's going to be available on Blu-ray and a stunning 4K ultra high definition disc. We are thrilled to have the star of Invaders from Mars, Jimmy Hunt, who played the young boy David MacLean. Jimmy, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thank you, Joe. It's good to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you. You know, I get to talk to a bunch of people from recent films that are coming out in the 2020s, and occasionally I get to talk to people who are from films that I grew up with in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But to talk to somebody who was around in 1953, and you started way before that, right? You started in the 1940s. How old were you when you first started in the movies?
I was almost 7 years old.
And what year was that?
That was 1947. Well, actually, yeah, 46, 47, right there.
So how did that start? What was that first movie, and how did you get involved with that?
Okay. It was being at the right place at the right time, I guess. My family, we were never had anything to do with the entertainment industry at all. We were a typical middle-class family. My dad was a tool and die maker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. World War II had just ended, and so I went to school about 6 blocks from MGM. And so MGM was looking to make a movie with Van Johnson as the lead, and they were looking for someone to play the part of Van Johnson as a little boy. They looked through Hollywood and they couldn't find anybody. So they came out to the grammar school that I was at, and they picked a couple of us out, and we went and somehow, I don't know, I guess I had a screen test, because I really don't remember too much about that, and got the part. And so here I was, a little kid I'd barely seen movies, because during the war, we just didn't go, And so being part of a movie now was something completely different for me. And it was one of those things that, hey, I got picked for the part, went, and in those 7 years that I was in the business, I made 42 movies.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you were in the business 7 years. You made 40, how many, 42 movies?
42 movies, yeah.
So give people a sense of some of the people that you worked with over those 7 years.
I think I worked with probably almost all the big people. I mean, the best way to put it is the people I didn't work with, I guess, maybe. John Wayne, I never made a movie with John Wayne. But I was with, starting off, Van Johnson, then Katharine Hepburn was my mom. Let's see, with the Sainted Sisters, with Veronica Lake. Another big one was Mating of Millie, and that was with Glenn Ford and Evelyn Keyes. And Fred McMurray, let's see, geez, Robert Mitchum, let's see, who else? Just a ton of them.
Ronald Reagan.
Reagan. Yes, yeah, I can't forget him. I live about maybe 2 miles from the Reagan Library in Simi Valley. So, yeah, every once in a while I'll go up there and walk through there and say, "Hey, Ronnie, I'm back."
So when you were a kid, did you have any concept of I'm working with movie stars, I'm working with famous people? Did that at the time when you were making those movies, was that in your mind?
No, my parents had to tell me who these people were. Like they're saying, you're working with Bob Hope, or you're working with Bing Crosby, or now this gentleman here, and my favorite of all time, of course, was Joel McCrea. And because we made a couple Westerns together and spent some time up in Durango, Colorado on location. And so, yeah, he was my favorite. But Glenn Ford, Fred McMurray, some of those guys they were wonderful. I mean, I never had a bad experience. And you hear a lot of kids say, oh man, this happened to me and this and this and that. No, everybody was really good to me. I mean,
That's awesome.
Because I was sort of one of those kids that, there's hundreds of thousands of kids that would give their left arm to be in a movie. I had no idea what it was like. I couldn't sing, I couldn't dance. I never had an acting lesson, and it just happened.
So now, so you did Invaders from Mars, and we're going to talk about that in a second. You retired shortly thereafter. How old were you when you retired from acting?
I was 14.
Okay, so you were 14. You went and lived your life. Give people a sense of what you did after you retired. You did sports.
I did sports. Yeah, that was the reason I got out of movies, was that when I was I got to high school and I wanted to play sports, I would be out there on the practice field and my mom would come and say, "We got to go for an interview." Oh, come on, no, So I gave up going, being in movies so I could play sports. Everybody's familiar with Happy Days and sort of the lifestyle that Richie Cunningham lived. And so that was me. I mean, I was into hot rods. I mean, I had my hot rods and I had, I played sports. I had girlfriends and, it was happy. High school was a good time.
Do you ever look back when you got older? Did you ever get the bug to like, maybe I want to jump back into this? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, and I had a lot of opportunity for that because television was just starting to get pretty big then, and they had a lot of different series that they were doing, and they'd call me and I'd turn them down. I just didn't want to do it, and it worked out real well for me. I really did. I mean, yeah, I had a good life, and I look back and I say, hey, I can't ever complain about having any bad times like some of these people have written books about and stuff like that. No, I never had any of that. Everybody treated me very well.
So you said that when you were a kid, you're working with all of these movie stars, and your parents had to tell you who they were. When you got older, and you look back at your life in film, do you ever get starstruck? Does it ever hit you like, oh my God, I was in a movie with Katharine Hepburn. Oh my God, I was in a movie with Ronald Reagan. Oh my God, did that ever happen, or was that just because it had happened to you? That was just life as a kid. Like they were just people.
No, well, yeah, I mean, they were just people, and they treated me that way. And people always ask me, what was it like to be, go to the movies and be in that, work with those people? And I said, to me, it was like, I always equate it with the fact that I took my little lunch pail and I went to work every day, and I was there, and the director told me what he wanted me to do. I had memorized my lines, what they'd given me, that they were going to shoot that day. And so, I figured I was prepared that way, but yeah, they told me what they wanted me to do, and I tried to do that, what they asked for. And I, like I said, everybody was very kind to me. I mean, these were big time stars. I mean, big time stars. And at that time, the studio made sure that they were big time stars. I mean, it's, they made sure that they stayed on the fairly straight and narrow, and they did things that would not be a blot on their careers and on the studio itself.
Did you get to pick and choose projects? I know this was during the studio system era. So were you just assigned films, and you're doing this film, we're assigning you to this, or did you get to pick and choose the projects, or your parents get to choose the projects? How'd that work?
Okay. I was never under contract with any studio. So my first 6 movies were with MGM. And then I went off into going to other studios. We, at about picture 4 or 5, I think, my parents went out and they got an agent for me. And he turned out to be a really good agent, good guy. And so he would kind of go through the stuff and filter stuff out and then send stuff to us, and we'd decide if we wanted to be that movie or not. Or he would say, this one you've got to do, you got to do this one. And so, yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, Mating of Millie was a movie that I made back in 1948, and it was kind of I think that movie kind of really launched my career. It was with Glenn Ford and Evelyn Keyes, and I think that was the movie that kind of got everything really rolling, really good times. But yeah, no, it was, I don't ever remember sitting down and saying, I want to do this movie or I want to do that. No, it just was there,
So let's talk Invaders from Mars. It's coming out, a new, beautiful new 4K restoration. I watched it last night. It's absolutely beautiful. What was your first memory of Invaders from Mars when you got that script? So I know at the time, this was the 1950s. The movie came out in 1953. Sci-fi films weren't what they are now. When you saw that script for the first time, what was your reaction?
I remember my agent saying he wanted to make sure that I understood what, the movie a little bit, and what was going on. And he sent the script to us, and my parents and we looked it over. I should say my parents looked it over. Anyway, and we decided that, yeah, I could do that movie. And it was, like I said, I was kind of into science fiction a little bit. I used to draw rocket ships and stuff like that, all the time. And so I thought it was kind of going to be a kind of a neat experience. And then when I got there on the set and got to meet, they brought me in a couple days early so I could meet the mutants, the big tall guys. And so I wouldn't be afraid, But those guys, I mean, they were neat guys, great, but huge. I mean, the one guy was, I thought he was about 8 foot tall. I think I don't know, it's between 8'2" and 7'8". Yeah, so, hey, get a couple inches, but it was a very interesting experience, that movie, because we did it on 3.5 weeks.
So, the director of the film, William Cameron Menzies, what was he like working for us as a director?
He was completely different than most other directors. I mean, he was a detailed-oriented guy. I mean, really detailed. And I never realized what happened is that a couple days before we started to shoot, he had taken and done some storyboards and he had these little pictures on the wall of how he was going to shoot each scene. And he had these things in this one room, and I remember seeing them. And then a couple days before they started production, they were stolen. And so that was a real setback for a day or two anyway, I know that. And so, but Menzies was, like I said, he was different, and he knew exactly what he wanted. And it was none of this stuff where he stood around and talked to people and said, listen, how do you think we should shoot this? No, he knew what he wanted, and you did it that way. And it turned out to be the right way. Yeah, it came out really good. I mean, I never realized that 70 years from now, I'd be talking to yourself about a movie that I made when I was 13 years old,
One of the amazing things I think about the film is that the sets are kind of iconic, including that hillside. That's not shot outside, right? That the hillside with the fence, that was an interior set, correct?
All of the buildings and all of that stuff was done on one big, huge stage at Republic Studios. And yeah, the hillside was inside in a corner of the stage, and the house, the gas station, you name it, everything that they did, the police station, all done right there in that one big stage.
It's absolutely amazing. I know that fence. Just that image of the fence on the hill has been copied. I know Tobe Hooper. We're going to talk about that remake in a second. I know Tobe Hooper paid homage to it in the remake. I know other films, Steven Spielberg paid homage to it in the War of the Worlds remake that he did. It's very, very amazing sets. Let's talk about some of your co-stars. Helena Carter played Dr. Pat Blake. Leif Erikson, Hillary Brooks played your parents. Do you have any memories of working with those co-stars?
They were under the same pressure, I guess, as I was, that we were going to do that movie in such a short period of time. But everybody pulled together, and everybody was really, really kind to me anyway. I know that we had a scene there with Leif Erikson where he takes a swing at me and hits me in the movie. I think you remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I missed my mark, and I got a little too close.
So he actually hit you.
So he actually hit me.
Ouch.
And he's a big guy. Leif Erikson's a pretty big guy. And when he hit me, boy, I went down onto the ground, and I was laying there looking up, and I'm sure that Menzies was thrilled, because that was a great shot. I was laying there just, and so yeah, they were all really nice. And then, like I said, it's sort of when you come to make a movie, if you haven't worked with people before, everybody's a stranger, and you get to meet each other and get to know each other. And in this movie, hey, I was kind of the star of the movie, so but it was sort of like you treated each other just like normal people would treat each other, and try to be nice. And as a kid, you always have to be nice.
Did you keep in touch with them over the years? Like after the fact, like nowadays, like if a movie like Invaders from Mars would have been released today, there's this Comic-Con culture, right? There's conventions and people go to conventions every weekend, different cities. The casts are always seeing each other, your Star Treks and your Fireflies and your Battlestar Galactica. They're all, even though those shows went off the air, they're all seeing each other for years and years and years. That didn't really exist until the 70s. But did you guys ever get together and do signings or screenings? Did that ever happen? Or did you see them outside of that, maybe just like hang out and go to somebody's house and have like a private mini reunion? Did that ever happen?
No, it didn't. And and again, as a child, they may have got together. I have no idea, but I was never invited. But no, it was one of those things. No, it was different though. To them it was a job. They were going, like Arthur Franz once said. He said, "Hey, it paid the bills," and I went and did the job. And I didn't really have much contact. The only person I really stayed in contact with much would be Gigi Perot, who was the sister of Janine Perot, who played in the movie as the little girl, Kathy Wilson. But yeah, so I've talked to her occasionally, but not very much. And at 14, when I got out, I kind of just severed all the ties, and that was in. Yeah. So
mid 80s come around. Tobe Hooper, Canon Films say they're going to remake Invaders from Mars. I'm going to ask this in 3 different sections because I think I know the answer to this, but we'll see if I'm right with your answers. Question 1? What was your reaction when you first heard that they were going to remake Invaders from Mars?
Okay, after I got out of the movies and my life as a teenager, and then after I got married, now I'm in my sales career that I went into, and I'm calling on Lockheed, which is a manufacturer of airplanes and stuff like that. And one of the engineers there is very interested in movies and stuff like that. And he said, "Did you know they're going to remake Invaders from Mars?" I said, "No, come on." And he said, "Oh yeah." And prior to that, a gentleman by the name of Robert Skotak, and I think he got an Oscar for Alien and for Titanic and a bunch of others. And he was a special effects guy. He and another gentleman by the name of Scott Holden had come and interviewed me for an article about Invaders from Mars. We laughed about it and said, wouldn't it be funny if they ever did a remake of that? Well, lo and behold, 1986 rolls around and they do a remake. And so this engineer at Lockheed, Chris Clifford, he started calling the studios. And I said, "Oh, don't even waste your time. They're not going to." So he started calling, and he actually got a meeting with myself and Tobe Hooper. And I went out and met Tobe Hooper, and Tobe said, would you consider doing a cameo role in this movie? He said, you'd play the chief of police. It'd be a small role, but would you do that? And I thought, yeah, that would be kind of fun, I think. So I took some vacation days off from my work and went and did my role in the remake of Invaders from Mars. And Tobe Hooper was a great guy, really a lot of fun to be with, and he was so enthusiastic with that movie. I don't know, to me, it just didn't live up to what I thought it should be, because I thought it was going to be so much better because all of the high-tech stuff that they had to work with and everything. I thought they were just gonna, this was just gonna blow it out of the ballpark, and it didn't. And I was disappointed.
Okay, you've kind of answered questions 2 and 3. My question 2 is going to be, what was it like being on that set and working with Toby Hooper? Third question what was your reaction to the film when you saw the final product?
Well, my reaction was the fact that we went to, I forget what movie it was, what theater it was, but we went there at opening night and saw the movie. And after it was over with, I told my kids and my wife, and I said, let's just hang back a little bit here, and I don't want anybody to recognize me. So as I was disappointed, like I said, I thought it could have been better. That's all. I don't know. You know, something. Yeah.
I feel you. When that movie came out, I was 15, 16 years old, and I was at a summer camp, and we had free time in the evening, and there was a movie theater. It was in a small town though. They only had the one movie theater, and the week I was there, Invaders from Mars remake was playing. So I saw, unfortunately I had to see it. We went every night. So I saw that movie like 5 times over the course of a week. And I was like, oh, I wish there was a different movie that I was immersed in for a week. But it has its moments, and
it does. It did. It has its moments, and I know that Hunter Carson, who played the little boy in the movie, really didn't want to be there. And so he was a little, I don't know, I think he, like I said, I just think his attitude, he just didn't want to be there, But
so let's go back to the original here. The new restoration comes out. It premiered, I believe, the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival earlier this year, introduced by the great director John Sayles. You were there. You got to see it. Had you seen the film over is that something you do? Do you go back and watch your old movies, or was this viewing when they showed this at the Turner Classic Movies Festival? Was this the first time you had seen it in a while?
I had seen it one other time, the restoration.
Okay.
One other time when they first came out, and they did I guess kind of a bonus type thing that they were going to promote along with the movie. And so we shot that, and so I got to see it that time, and then I got to see it again at the Turner Classic Movie premiere there that they had. And they did a fantastic job. I mean, the movie I think it's better than it was originally. I mean, the color and everything just pops out of the screen.
It's packed house, sold out, full audience.
Yep. I mean, I was shocked.
Is that the Chinese in Hollywood?
I just thought that, how many people are going to show up for it, right? And they had to turn people away.
Yeah. So what's that experience, seeing it with an audience for the first time in almost 70 years? And was it in the main house of the Chinese theater that holds thousands of people, or was it in one of the smaller houses there?
One of the smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a few hundreds of people. What's that like, seeing that with an enthusiastic crowd of classic film lovers? And looking, and the film looks so beautiful and restored like that. What was that experience like?
It was a fun experience. It really was. I was there with my family, and so my 2 boys, and my wife unfortunately had, I guess she wasn't feeling too well that night, so she didn't go. But it was my 2 boys and my one granddaughter that went, and so we got to share, that good time together, and it was fun. And people, as we were filing out of the theater, people were coming up to me and telling me how much they appreciated the movie and all that kind of stuff. So that was fun.
Did the granddaughter know how cool her grandpa is beforehand? The
granddaughter is she wants to be, when she was a little girl growing up, we'd ask her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she wanted to be a celebrity. And so she just graduated from college with a marketing degree, but she was Miss Simi Valley, she was Miss Ventura County, Miss Hollywood, Miss Woodland Hills in this Miss America pageant. So she's very good singer, and she's so now she's kind of got involved with this, and she's kind of I always call her my manager, but it's a fun thing to do with your granddaughter because she gets to share in some of the excitement that I'm going through right now.
A few weeks ago, you were also honored at the Cinecon Film Festival. They showed the film there, and they gave you an award. You got to do a Q&A about your career. So this whole year has been a celebration of you and your career and this film. You kind of touched on this at the beginning. Did you have any idea 70 years ago that this would all be happening 70 years later, that this one film in particular would still be talked about?
No, and that's the thing. I didn't think that this would be the film that people would be talking about. I thought maybe it might be Cheaper by the Dozen, or it might be a movie I made with Joel McCrea, Lone Hand, which I had a really big part in. But I never thought it would be Invaders from Mars. And yet I should have known, because in my business career after I got married, whatever, I was into industrial sales, and I was selling all of the aerospace firms in Southern California. And I would go into people and be there and talking about it, and they would say, I think I know you from somewhere. Where do I know you from? And I knew what it was, but I would string people along a little bit. I'd say, oh, what high school did you go to? And things like that. And eventually I would say, yeah, well, have you ever watched movies? I made a few movies. And then they'd say, oh yeah, I remember that. And then, to this day, I still get fan mail from all over the world for Invaders from Mars.
I think it's one of the four. I was trying to think, the 1950s. I mean, sci-fi didn't really take off until 2000 with Kubrick with 2001. That kind of changed how sci-fi was perceived, and then later with Star Wars in 1977. But looking back at the 1950s, I think there's really only four films that kind of survived and are considered rewatchables. You have Forbidden Planet, of course, Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
the Day
the Earth Stood Still, and then I think Invaders from Mars would be probably number 4, and
4 or 5 there, because I think what was it, War of the Worlds?
Oh, War of the Worlds. You're right.
Yeah,
we'll say there's 5.
5 right.
So what is it about those films and Invaders from Mars? What is it? The paranoia aspect to them? Is it the?
I think it was sci-fi was something new. It was different. I remember. I thought I went and watched. Would watch those films, and I thought they were really pretty good. And even with the lack of all of the technical stuff that they have now, that they could make movies. I think they did a great job with those movies. And I think the premise, of course, is the fact that people were still, they kind of believed that there really was something out there. And to this day, it's still going on. We still have the things on TV that are saying, there's UFOs out there. And I can actually say, and I'll say this to you, and you'll be the first one that I'm going to say this to, is the fact that I actually saw a spaceship.
Yeah.
I
Well,
t-
tell
I
me. If I'm the first, you got to tell me. Okay, tell.
you are. I was, I don't know, maybe 14, 15. The guy down the street from us where I lived, he owned a chauffeur type business where he would drive the big, the big cars for all the Hollywood stars and stuff like that. And so I was walking down the street and talking, and he'd always stop me, and because he knew I was in the business, and we'd talk, and all of a sudden we looked up in the sky, and there was this. I guess I want to say it was maybe like a cigar-shaped type aircraft or whatever, but it was going along, and all of a sudden it made a 90-degree turn, just going straight, and then it went straight up, and then it went off into, and we both looked at each other and we said, "Did we really see that?" And yeah, and so I believe that yes, there are other things, there are other beings out there. I mean, it's sort of ludicrous to think that Earth is the only place out of all this universe that they would have this experience of being inhabited. I mean, there's got to be something else.
Well, September 26th, people can see this restoration. The disc has a bunch of bonus features. I know there's an interview with you on there. There's a featurette about the restoration with Scott McQueen, who did a fabulous job restoring the film. There's a documentary with filmmakers like John Landis and Joe Dante and visual effects artists talking about the film and how influential it was and why they like it. I know the John Sayles intro from the Turner Classic Movies Festivals on that disc. Where it's time to wrap it up, what can you tell us about the restoration? What can people expect about the film itself and seeing the beautiful colors and the sound? Well, sell it.
Okay, all right, I'm going to sell it with just a very few words. After you see the movie and it's over with, the only thing that you're going to be able to say is, "Gee whiz."
There you have it. Jimmy Hunt, thank you so much. It's an honor to speak to you. I'm very privileged and honored that I got a chance to talk to you about Invaders from Mars. Absolute joy. This is Jimmy Hunt. The film is Invaders from Mars, September 26th from Ignite Films, 4K restoration on Blu-ray and 4K ultra high definition discs. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Joe, remember, reach for the stars.
Thanks, buddy.